Hello and welcome to today's Oboe Winfrey. Joining me are Christian Elliott and Aisling. Now Aisling, I want to know how to pronounce your surname, but it's one of those Irish names that I just can't. So could you tell me your surname, please?
Yes, it's Ní Cheallaigh. So it's Gaelic for Kelly, and if you kind of try to say Kelly in a Northern Irish kind of accent, you get Cheallaigh.
Okay. I'm actually not going to try that because it just could go really wrong. So I'll just carry on. So Christian and Aisling collaborated in the Irish Chamber Orchestra's I Create Online series to make the film A New Dawn. Now, I guess Christian needs a very small amount of introduction. He's the principal cellist of the Irish Chamber Orchestra, and he's chatted to me quite a few times on my Winfrey Wednesday interviews. Aisling is an aerialist who apparently delights in flight and movement and specialises in the aerial hoop. So Christian and Aisling, thank you very much for agreeing to share your part of the journey of creating this incredibly evocative piece. Aisling, you're getting all the attention so far, but before we get to talking about the film, now is it true that you actually turned down working with Cirque du Soleil?
Yes, I did actually, but it wasn't the dream job. It wasn't something that would have fed me as much creatively, and I had already started making work here in Ireland, and I was working with Fidget Feet, and I was really excited about those jobs. So when I got offered, I got offered a show called Turuk twice, but it was like fabric ensemble and a cruise ship once, and none of them I just didn't want to do them as much as I wanted to do the other work here in Ireland.
So Ireland presented a bigger draw than Cirque du Soleil, which is amazing.
I love making my own stuff, and you don't get to do that with Cirque du Soleil unless you are brought in for creation, which is something I'd be very interested in the future, but haven't been offered.
Yeah, okay. So at the start of March, Katrina from the ICO management asked Christian and Aisling to collaborate on a project filmed and recorded during the lockdown. So obviously they couldn't meet up to do this. Now, Michelle Ryan of Epic Media took both elements that were created separately by Christian and Aisling, and as I say, she put them together and made a brand new short film called A New Dawn. So Christian, can you tell me a bit about the music part of the project and how that came about?
Yeah, well, when Katrina originally mentioned it, she sort of said, get in touch with Aisling and see if you guys can figure out something, that you'd like to collaborate on. And I think the first sort of thought that I had was maybe I would improvise something on multi-track, so me, in multiple videos, just so I can make multiple parts. But I don't know, I just wasn't getting the right thing by doing that. So then I thought, I was recording a lot of covers of other things anyway. So I sort of asked Aisling if there was anything in particular she was really sort of eager to do, and she came back with this fantastic list of ideas, and two that sort of leapt out at me were Tom Waits' Little Drop of Poison and House of the Rising Sun. And I sort of was leaning towards the Tom Waits first, and then I think I said to Aisling, I think I'll do that. But then I also said I've been kind of working on House of the Rising Sun anyway. So then, after I said, okay, yeah, I think I'll try A Little Drop of Poison because that'll work best, then I just could not get House of the Rising Sun out of my head. So I just ended up walking around thinking, oh yeah, I can do this on the cello. And so that's what I ended up doing. And then I sent it to her, well, is this it? What do you think? Can this work?
Brilliant. And so Aisling, when you suggested the pieces, did you already have a kind of choreographic plan in your mind, or did that come later?
That definitely came later, because I tend to fall in love with a piece of music and then start creating movement around it. But there will be certain aspects of it that I would have to have practiced beforehand. But it's not until I get the music and it's there and I can hear it that I start to weave all of the movement ideas, and I suppose people call them tricks, but they're more. I like to think of them more as like ways of moving around the hoop. But yeah, that all starts to come together in my mind.
And so, Christian, there's incredible contrasts in your arrangement. So we've got this kind of strong rhythmic accompaniment and really passionate lyrical playing, and then also you kind of make the cello into a percussion instrument, and you kind of do all sorts of really weird things, imaginatively weird things musically. But did you imagine the kind of element of flight or kind of acrobatics when you arranged and then obviously played it for Aisling?
Well, thanks, Matthew. That's really good to hear that. I sort of not really. I mean, I just knew that whatever Aisling was going to do was going to be incredibly brilliant, and so I wasn't really thinking about that in the sort of, you know, when I was doing the arrangement. But except for the really short introduction, I based the whole rest of it on the Animals cover of House of the Rising Sun, and so that has organ, guitars, bass, and drums. So I kind of, you know, did all those parts on, you know, I tried to sort of represent each of those parts on the cello. But fun little factoid is that the drums are actually a metal chopstick on the tailpiece, which that was kind of, that was fun to come up with that. So, yeah.
Well, it's absolutely great. So, Aisling, what did you feel when you first heard the music? I mean, obviously you say you kind of practiced a few bits before, but when you first heard it, what was it like to hear this kind of brand new arrangement? And also, without giving too much away, I wanted to ask a little bit about the shadows in the film when you were filming it and creating it. I wondered, did you do that intentionally, or because to me as a kind of viewer, it's almost like they represent a sort of third dimension. So I just wondered, was that part of Michelle's treatment of the footage?
So the first time I listened to the music, I just had earphones in and I was lying down. I just done my warm up, and I was lying down on the mats. And as I was listening to it, I could feel parts of my body starting to want to move. So I was immediately really excited to get up on the hoop and start playing. And the piece ended up coming together really fast. Like I thought it would take, I think I told Katrina 3 days, but I was thinking it's probably going to be a week, but I don't want to sort of ask for too much time or seem like I'm going to need this much time. So I said 3 days, but it actually just came together in those 3 days really like, what's that word? Organically. And then the shadow. So the shadow and actually the whole entire piece was very much born out of COVID and out of lockdown. I normally train in a space that's a little bit higher and more like a warehouse here in Sligo. But because of the 2 kilometer, I think it was, lockdown at the time, I couldn't get to it. But there was this space where I recorded it within 2 kilometers, walking distance from where I was staying. And I don't know, in the original, you can hear this creaking noise because we had it pulley on a beam and it was on a clamp, and it just makes this terrible noise. It's not ideal. It's safe, but it's just not an ideal kind of aesthetic for recording a piece. And it was really low, so my hoop can't go up and down like I normally would have it. It's just set at that low height. And then we only had one little birdie to light it with, which was creating the shadow. And in rehearsals, we first tried to get rid of the shadow by side lighting more, so the shadow wouldn't be in frame. But after watching one of the run-throughs where the light was just dead on, we loved the shadow. It was my partner Jenny was doing the filming. And we decided it felt like I was dancing with somebody else, or that there were potential hundreds of aerialists behind me, and it felt really fitting for COVID times because there's so many of us who are training on alone and we can't come together anymore. So it just felt like having more people in the room with us creating. So we left it in.
Yeah, it really, really worked. It was very, very effective. I thought it was really magical. So Christian, when you saw the first edit of the film, so it put together with your music, and you saw all the work that Michelle had done on it, how did you feel? I
was so excited. I thought it was so brilliant. I mean, I think, I had seen Aisling's dance first before that, and I was already completely blown away by that. I was really excited to see it all put together because Michelle had done something great. Originally, each of the 5 frames you could see them all the time, and she did this great thing where she tinted each one a slightly different color, and they would come out different sizes at different times based on which one was more prominent. So that was really great to see that, because the interest is generated so much more by watching which one is more active at a given time. So yeah, I was just thrilled. It looked so great and sounded good, and I was it was really exciting.
Fantastic. So obviously this is made back in March, and we're kind of a bit on kind of Groundhog Day here again, aren't we, with this kind of lockdown and what's going to happen next. And I was kind of curious to ask you both the same question, that how does this sort of piece of art really, how does it resonate with you both now, looking back and thinking back and reflecting over the time, but also kind of in the context of today?
Aisling, do you want to go first?
Right. There's a real sense for me of nostalgia with that one, because it was very much, so at the time I wasn't living in Sligo full time. I'd moved in December, but I had been traveling all over the place, so I hadn't been back yet. And then when I did go back, I had partner and friends with me, and I was staying in a different place. We were trying to rent a place. Because we were all from all over the place, and we decided, let's lock down together, it'll be 2 fun weeks. And I think this project came along about 5 weeks later, and we were still there. But there was a sense of like, what is going to happen next, but also a real sense of hope for, well, once the summer's over and we can go back to maybe touring and creating and making, and watching it now, I feel like if I had known then that this was going to be life for quite a while, I wonder if I would have done anything different. Or it's just, I feel like there was more of a sense of hope for the future there than there might be now. Even though I'm still hopeful, I know now that it's going to take a few years before I'm able to work like I did before.
And Christian, how do you?
Well, I mean, it's similar. I had no idea back in March that it was going to be this long. Like I didn't have the scope of it. I think when I first got the text that ICO's March work was cancelled, I thought, oh yeah, but for sure I'll be back like in April, because we were preparing the next thing. And then, oh, okay, April's not, but June, like for sure June. And then it was, oh, okay, yeah. And so I didn't manage to get back until September. And like now UK people have to quarantine. So it's really difficult to actually make it happen. We don't know how long this is going to last. And I guess I'm a little bit nostalgic for that time. Was really productive for me. I just kept wanting to do more and more of these multi-track arrangements and videos, and it was kind of my solace, I think. But I think the happiest I am about this particular video is just that it brings these, like, Aisling's incredible dance and the music and the video editing. It brings all these art forms together, and that's something I've always been really excited and passionate about. And the fact that there was this fantastic collaboration, I'm just really thrilled to have been a part of something like that.
Well, I hope we haven't given too much away, but thank you both so much for a really, really interesting chat today. It's very nice to talk to you, even across the internet. So A New Dawn will be released tomorrow as part of the ICO I Create Online series. Be sure not to miss it. It's very, very special. Take good care, everyone, and see you next week.